and the lay public contributed towards the construction of workshops because they knew that education, the philosophy of 844 was to make education terminal at every level. So they contributed, even carpenters took their veranda to schools to be used by the pupils. So that is my recommendation, number one. Number two, there is also a very serious need to look at the context analysis of the CBC. There is need to allow the general public to agree to disagree, and let us use the information emanating from the stakeholders to buy into their attitude. The reason why parents may not be comfortable with the CBC is because they have not been allowed to ventilate. They have not been allowed to have dialogue into what their children is learning. Bwana Chairman, CBC basically, and I'm sorry for the children who are here, CBC is even more academic than the 844. When you look at the number of textbooks the children are carrying to school, I want to compare with what a class 7 and a grade 6 is carrying. Those carried by grade 6 are more than what is carried by a grade 7, class 7 child. When I heard that this task force was coming here, I did foreshadowing, which is one of the research areas that we handle at the university. I did foreshadowing of a primary school for 2 weeks. And number one, the children in class 8 and class 6 study up to 6 p.m. They are doing exams every Wednesday. So the question is, are we reintroducing, or we are shifting the academic or the exam-oriented work from class 8 to grade 6? The other thing which I want to say is that there is a need to look at the cost of materials in CBC. Some of the materials are not readily available, and as parents are struggling to provide or to put food on the table, they are also struggling to put aids, manila paper, and gunia on the handbags of children who are supposed to take them to school. Bwana Chairman, I want to say some of the materials are actually very annoying to the parents. Parents who work up to around saa mbili ya usiku on a shift, they arrive home at 11, and the child is waiting to tell the parent, tumeambiwa kuleta gunia kwa shule the following day. We have been told to carry manila paper to school. So the cost of CBC needs to be looked at seriously. And I want to propose that some of the expensive curriculum areas can be cut out, or if they are very relevant, then our teachers should be told or encouraged to use locally available materials. The practical aspects also under CBC are seriously expensive. That a course like swimming being taught to CBC, and children are being taught swimming in the field using a mattress. It's really very interesting. So I want to propose that some of the expensive aspects or topics or content can be cut out. Number 5, my proposal for junior secondary. The number of secondary schools are very much less compared to the number of primary schools. Here in Bomet, Mr. Chairman, we have got 924 primary schools, and we have got 301 secondary schools. And the just constructed CBC classrooms are not enough. Now, I want to say that the government's idea of 100% transition is at a very high risk come the transition of the 844 to Form 1 and the transition of CBC to junior secondary. So I want to suggest that we domicile the CBC under the existing primary schools, because we are only going to add one classroom, because they will be in a junior secondary for 3 years. That will be cost effective and it will not going to provide a nightmare to the country and to the government. Now, there is need also to reorient the teachers who are currently handling the CBC. Somebody called Girox has said that the best teaching practice is what we call critical dialogue. That facilitates the students' interaction with others without any obligation or threat. So the teachers need to do what we call paradigm shift. And incidentally, my own thinking is that the 844 system of education died in the hands of the classroom. And therefore, even as we do reorientation, there is a serious need to change the attitude of the teachers, so that if we are providing the theories of Piaget and Bandura, are our teachers ready to shift from teacher-centered learning to learner-centered learning? So the attitude is very important. We need to change this attitude. And then assessment, as I finish, assessment mode should also be looked at, because there is a possibility of subjectivity if we are going to allow only one person to carry out assessment in CBC. So, Mr. Chairman, I want to propose that we allow multiple assessments of the learners, so that we arrive at a conclusive evidence on what competencies the learner is able to do. Finally, on CBC, this is a little bit
You
funny.
have 1 minute now.
Yes.
I've now become a policeman.
Professor, that is 1 minute. And this is a little bit out of the blues. Supposing the Ministry of Education replace the many books they are bringing to schools with soft copies. I'm simply thinking very wildly. Most of the schools currently can be able to download, and even if they cannot download, we should set up regional centers where schools can download materials, so that we stop this issue of supplying 2,000 biology books and 100 chemistry books. Finally, Chairman, my 1 minute is ending, is on review of University Act, especially on the issue of formation of university councils. I want to propose that the University Council, that section, be changed to allow academicians who may be working in public institutions to become members of council. There is a serious need to look at some of the council constituted. You understand what I'm saying? I think, Professor, you understand what I'm saying about university councils. And finally, the placement of students to public universities and private universities. My wild thinking is that there was actually, for lack of another word, red tape in the placement of universities into placement of students into private universities. So my proposal is that if there is a parent who is capable of taking their child to a private university, they should be allowed. But all government-sponsored students should be placed in government institutions. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity. There is a lot which I should have said, but we are constrained by time. But I want to say I will forward my deliberations to the committee, so that it can form part of the discussion and dialogue in the National arena. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman, County Education Board, Dr. Kirui. Kuanzia sasa mimi naketi chini, tutawatolea masharti na tutakubali uvunje